Hey guys, and welcome to Should You Buy It, where all we do is talk a little bit about the game and whether or not we think it's worth the cost.
5, 6,
all right,
7.
just
Oh god.
run. It's a war. It's a war. Don't get caught. I got caught.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
In this episode, we'll be playing New World, the newest MMO game where you will travel across a land known as Aeternum, in which you will craft, fight, and PvP your way to the top of the food chain.
The first question we always cover in these videos is what stage of development is the game in? And in this case, New World is currently in full release and available on PC for $40.
So what is New World and what can we expect from it? Well, New World is a game based around Souls-like combat with an in-depth RuneScape-y style of crafting system. Let's go ahead and start out by talking about the combat, since usually that's the part that most people are interested in. In total, New World has 11 different weapon types in its current state, each one with its own unique abilities that make it special. Some excel at things like AoE, while others excel at survivability and movement. The idea here is that whether you want to freeze your opponents to death or shoot them from a million miles away with your musket, your playstyle will be accommodated. In combat, you will be able to use two of these weapons interchangeably in order to create a somewhat unique playstyle for your character. The best part about these weapons though is that no matter where you're at in your game, you're always free to pick up a different weapon and start leveling it.
Now your weapons, professions, and character all have separate levels that will increase as you do each thing associated with them. Weapons will level up as you use them in combat, professions will level up as you craft and gather things associated with that, and your character level will increase from doing just about anything within the game. There is also territory standing levels that give you bonuses while inside said territory. For an example, you could get a bonus for gathering speed, lower your taxes, or the ability to own property.
So what is the story like? Well, the New World story is essentially that you are a stranded person from a crew that left to find some gold. You wake up on the island that you were heading for only to find out that your entire crew is dead and you must now learn to survive on your new stranded home. As far as the rest goes, to be 100% honest with you, we asked about 10 different people and not a single one of them read any quest text since it's so easy to just skip it in this game. I understand some people just don't care about the story whatsoever, but a few cutscenes, maybe some voice acting, or anything similar to this would have helped to encourage players to listen to what each quest giver had to say.
Aside from the story though, the main draw to the game seems to be the PvP systems. After reaching roughly level 10, you'll be given a main story quest in which you will choose one of 3 different factions. The Syndicate, which is the purple faction, the Marauders, which is green, and the Covenant, which is yellow. Each faction essentially operates in the same way and is simply no more than a PvP team for you to play on. They have their own reputation systems as well as their own currency in which you can buy resources, PvP consumables, and even some decent gear. You gain their reputation and rewards through participating in some faction repeatable PvE quests and PvP systems such as War, Open World PvP, and the Outpost Rush.
The endgame PvP will most likely focus around the war system. The war system is a little complex, but is probably the most interesting aspect of New World. The way this works is that one company will be able to hold ownership of a town. Then other factions can complete PvP quests to contribute towards the zone's influence. If you contribute enough influence by the time it reaches 100%, then consuls in your company will be able to put your name in the hat for a chance to go to war with the controlling faction. The wartime will be chosen by the defending faction. This means they can basically choose almost any time they want for you to attack within a specific window. If that's at 4 AM, well, then you best have your 50 people on at 3:45 AM ready to go.
Now there is some PvE content within New World. There is open world dungeons as well as some instance ones alongside the corruption breaches. We also know there will be a few endgame world bosses that will require a group most likely to be more than 5 players in order to take it down. With all this being said, it is highly likely that the gear from these places will be rather good, but will not be able to compete with the best in slot crafted gear.
So now let's move into the pros and cons section for the video. First up for the pros is that the crafting system keeps you engaged and feels rewarding when you reach certain milestones. For example, it feels pretty good to reach level 50 armoring as you were able to create bigger bags. Next up is the atmosphere of the game, as it creates a feeling of being a conquistador exploring a newly found world and fighting to claim every resource for your faction. After that is that each weapon feels very unique and powerful in their own way. For some examples, the musket felt good because you can snipe people from miles away, as the rapier allows you to have fast-paced jabs while also maintaining a lot of mobility. Although we haven't really experienced the endgame PvP, it does tend to be very enjoyable to open world PvP with a group of friends or a large company. One of the reasons this is that character levels don't always mean that you're going to win, as item level is significantly more impactful.
Yes. One guy. I wanted to kill him. He needs to be punished for being purple.
And finally for the pros is that this game constantly draws you into wanting to do something, as everything from gathering, crafting, questing, and PvP all progress your character in some way. This just gives you the feeling of always having something meaningful to do.
Now for the cons. First up today, we have the bugs and general jankiness of the game. What we're talking about here are things like when you pull out an ice gauntlet, you can't see your left arm in some cases, being able to drown yourself in like 5 inches of water, and a whole bunch of other things along the way. Just to give you the biggest one that I saw that just seemed totally out of whack was when you were over encumbered, you'd still a lot of times be able to move very quickly, you just seem to kind of skip forward and lag your way to wherever you are going. Next up is the repetitiveness and lack of quests. In New World, the gathering systems and leveling systems can get rather repetitive. There's only so many times I want to hit a tree or go ahead and mine a rock before I start to get a little bored and it starts becoming very tedious. As far as lack of quests go, what I mean here is that yes, there is a ton of faction board quests, you can do lots of repeatable quests, but it's not always fun to do those, and sometimes you just want to be able to progress your main story. If you only do main story quests, you will very quickly find out you will hit a bottleneck and have to go grind out sometimes 7, 8, or even 9 levels in order to reach the following main story quest. After that is the poor and irrelevant story. What I'm trying to say is that the story isn't necessarily bad per se, it's just not very engaging. There's not really any point in the game where I felt I needed to listen to the story or see what was going on, as it seems very straightforward. Hey, I'm on an island. Hey, there's some corruption, I should get rid of it. And that's kind of what it boils down to. I'm sure there's more depth to it, but I never felt engaged or like there was really a good reason for me to look into it, as well as when I interacted with many other players, they all seemed to have absolutely no idea what was going on beyond that. Second to last is the fact that New World has an extremely high chance to have some form of pay for convenience or pay to win. And in a game like this, it could absolutely destroy it. Now, to be fair, we don't know what this is going to look like or even for sure that it's going to be in the game. We just have a quote from Amazon Studios that essentially says, hey, look, we can't promise you there won't be any pay to win or any pay for convenience, but you know what, we'll do our best to try to accommodate people and not make it too overpowered. Given the fact that this is Amazon and they're most likely here to make money just like any other company, I wouldn't expect too much in the ways of this not being much of a pay-to-win system. Finally, is for me the most important con is the idea that you have to be in a large clan in order to engage in the war system. To me, New World's war system is super cool, it's interesting, and I want to partake in it. However, if I only have me and 9 friends and we're not willing to recruit outside of that group, or we just don't want to play with randoms, then we're kind of stuck in this situation where we can't really compete with the people with 100 players. Yes, it is potentially possible. However, you're going to be at an extreme disadvantage when it comes to engaging with the war system.
So now here we are at the rating for the game, and when we rate games, we want to get 1 hour of enjoyment out of every $1 that we spend on the game. So for this game in particular, in New World, we would want to get roughly 40 hours of enjoyment out of the $40 that we spent. And after putting well over 24 played hours into this game, we give it 7 out of 10 potatoes.
New World was a really solid game and had lots of fun aspects to it. The mechanics that work well in New World seem to work really, really well, but the parts that don't work very well seem to work extremely poorly. This means if you enjoy the good parts of the game and don't care much about the bad parts, you're probably going to have a ton of fun with it. New World certainly needs some elbow grease and some polish to buff out the many bugs it currently has, but with this being a new game dev company and not much history to go off of, it is still up in the air as to whether or not they will listen to their community and fix the issues quickly. With all that being said though, we personally had a great time with New World and are still playing it now. Therefore, we feel it is safe to say that New World is probably worth the cost.
Before you guys go, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe, as we recently noticed that over 98% of our viewers are not subscribed to our channel. We put out multiple new videos every single week, and your support is what makes this all possible. If you would like to support us even further and get some cool benefits, check out our membership program, which can be found in the join button below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.